What really happens when someone goes from the top of the world to complete collapse? Jesse James wasn't just a mechanic, he was a cultural phenomenon. He turned steel into rolling art, built an empire, and became the face of rebellion on television. But just when his fame burned brightest, a storm of scandals and controversies nearly destroyed everything he built. From a garage in Long Beach to Hollywood red carpets, from custom bikes to custom firearms, Jesse's story is as unpredictable as the man himself. And the twists along the way, they're far darker than most remember. In 1992, Jesse James began working out of his mother's garage in Long Beach, California. With nothing more than a few tools, a welding torch, and an obsession for motorcycles, he started building machines that reflected not just engineering, but raw identity. Each bike he touched carried a personal fingerprint, aggressive lines, steel frames, and the kind of rebellious energy that spoke to outsiders. This wasn't just transportation, it was a statement. That tiny garage eventually grew into West Coast Choppers, a name that quickly became legendary. His shop became the dream factory for gearheads and icons alike. WWE wrestlers, Kid Rock, Tyson Beckford, even Shaquille O'Neal, they all wanted bikes bearing Jesse's touch. And as the clientele grew, so did the mythology. His Iron Cross logo appeared everywhere, from belts and caps to tattoos inked on loyal fans. By the late 1990s, it wasn't just a brand, it was a culture. Wearing it said you belonged to something defiant, something untamed. What set Jesse apart wasn't just the machines, but the energy he created around them. He wasn't following trends, he was building them. For young fans, West Coast Choppers wasn't simply about motorcycles, it was about freedom, rebellion, and flipping the middle finger to anyone who doubted you. But fame like that doesn't just stay in the garage, and soon Hollywood came knocking. What followed would launch Jesse James into the kind of spotlight that most dream about, but it also opened a door that would unleash chaos he couldn't escape. When Discovery Channel launched Monster Garage in 2002, Jesse James's life changed forever. The concept was simple but irresistible. Take ordinary vehicles and transform them into jaw-dropping machines under impossible deadlines. A school bus turned into a pontoon boat, a fire truck converted into a beer brewer, even a NASCAR transformed into a lawnmower. Week after week, viewers tuned in not just for the wild builds, but for Jesse's no-nonsense leadership. He wasn't a polished TV host. He was raw, blunt, and unapologetic, exactly the kind of personality that reality television craved. Almost overnight, Jesse became a household name. Monster Garage pulled in millions of viewers, making him one of Discovery's breakout stars. West Coast Choppers, already popular, now exploded into the mainstream. His Iron Cross logo became a global symbol, worn by fans far removed from the biker world. Merchandise sales skyrocketed. Suddenly, Jesse wasn't just a bike builder, he was a brand. Riding that wave of success, Jesse expanded into new ventures: Garage Magazine, dedicated to custom cars and motorcycles, and Cisco Burger, a Long Beach restaurant dripping with biker culture. Everything he touched seemed to fuel the legend. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore, he was an outlaw celebrity. But with every step into the spotlight, the scrutiny grew sharper. For a man who thrived on rebellion and independence, being watched 24/7 was a dangerous game. The bigger the stage, the higher the stakes. And just as Jesse reached his peak, he entered a chapter that had nothing to do with motorcycles and everything to do with Hollywood glitz. That's when he met Sandra Bullock, and his story turned from a triumph into a tabloid obsession. When Jesse James married Sandra Bullock in 2005, it was a match that stunned fans. She was America's sweetheart, fresh off blockbuster films, standing at the top of Hollywood. He was the tattooed outlaw who built motorcycles and thrived in grease-stained garages. On paper, they couldn't have been more different. But together, they became a power couple that fascinated the public. Sandra, often praised for her humility despite fame, seemed to humanize Jesse. Suddenly, he wasn't just the rebellious builder, he was the husband of one of the most beloved actresses in the world. Paparazzi cameras followed them everywhere, and Jesse's presence in Hollywood circles skyrocketed. Red carpet events, award shows, and glossy magazine spreads replaced the biker rallies and shop floors he was used to. For a while, it seemed like Jesse had crossed into a new world, one where his outlaw edge blended with Sandra's Hollywood charm. But in reality, this new spotlight carried a cost. With Sandra at his side, Jesse wasn't just the face of West Coast Choppers anymore. He was tied to Hollywood's image machine, where every move, every decision, every rumor could make headlines. The rebellious mystique that had once made him untouchable was now under constant inspection. Behind the smiles and the public appearances, cracks began forming. The marriage may have looked strong to the outside world, but Jesse's personal demons and reckless choices were slowly piling up in the shadows. And in 2010, just as Sandra reached the pinnacle of her career by winning an Oscar for The Blind Side, Jesse's darkest scandal erupted, one that would not only destroy their marriage, but nearly obliterate his career in the process. In March 2010, just weeks after Sandra Bullock took home an Oscar for The Blind Side, the fairy tale crumbled. A woman named Michelle "Bombshell" McGee went public, claiming she had been involved with Jesse during his marriage. The story exploded across headlines, and within days more women stepped forward with similar allegations. What had once been the image of a Hollywood power couple turned into a media circus, with Jesse painted as the ultimate betrayer. The scandal hit at the worst possible time. Sandra, fresh off her biggest professional triumph, became the center of public sympathy. Jesse, once admired for his outlaw persona, was suddenly branded a villain. Tabloids published explicit details of affairs, secret meetings, and text messages. Each revelation chipped away at the myth Jesse had built around himself. His bad boy image, once marketable, now looked reckless and self-destructive. By April, Sandra filed for divorce, ending their 5-year marriage in one swift stroke. For Jesse, the consequences weren't limited to his personal life. West Coast Choppers, already showing signs of decline, faced a massive blow as fans turned away and corporate partners cut ties. Discovery distanced itself. Brands didn't want to be connected with the scandal. In interviews, Jesse admitted the mistakes were his alone. "I made the biggest mistake of my life. I have no one to blame but myself," he confessed. He even checked into rehab, hoping to repair his public image, but the damage was too deep. The fall from grace was brutal. Within months, Jesse went from TV star and entrepreneur to a cautionary tale. And just as the storm of the cheating scandal began to cool, another controversy erupted, one that would dig an even deeper hole. The next blow came from something far older than Jesse's marriage, the Iron Cross logo that defined West Coast Choppers. For years, it was a symbol of rebellion in biker culture. But in 2004, a California school district banned it, linking it to extremist groups. Jesse pushed back, insisting it had nothing to do with politics. But the damage was done. The Iron Cross was now seen by some as more than just an edgy design. Then in 2010, the controversy exploded. A photo surfaced of Jesse wearing a hat with a Nazi emblem while giving a fascist salute at a private party years earlier. Outlets like TMZ and Radar Online ran the image non-stop. For a man already reeling from the affair scandal, this was devastating. Fans felt betrayed, retailers pulled merchandise, and critics accused him of sympathizing with hate groups. Jesse claimed it was nothing more than a stupid joke, but by then explanations didn't matter. His name was toxic. What had once been a powerful brand became radioactive. West Coast Choppers' once booming sales plummeted, and by the end of 2010, Jesse announced the closure of its Long Beach headquarters. The logo that had once made him millions was now a reminder of his lowest point. Desperate for a reset, Jesse packed up and left California for Austin, Texas. He hoped that away from the relentless media glare, he could rebuild his life and career. But leaving Long Beach wasn't just a change of scenery. It was an admission. The empire he created was gone. In Austin, Jesse pinned his hopes on a new venture. But instead of redemption, he would find new struggles that proved even harder to escape. Austin was supposed to be Jesse's clean slate. He joined Austin Speed Shop, a respected hot rod and custom car shop known for precision and craftsmanship. Here, Jesse wanted to prove he still had the skills that once made him legendary. He tackled ambitious projects, restoring vintage 1950s cars, building sleek motorcycles, and experimenting with new designs. But Jesse's presence wasn't welcomed by everyone. Some mechanics saw him as a distraction, worried his scandals would drag the shop's reputation down. Others felt his brash, individualistic style clashed with the teamwork-driven culture at Austin Speed Shop. "We don't want the shop dragged into trouble," one mechanic admitted to Hot Rod Network. The tension never truly went away. In 2012, Jesse tried returning to television with Jesse James' Outlaw Garage. The show followed his projects at Austin Speed Shop and attempted to recapture the energy of Monster Garage. But lightning didn't strike twice. Critics slammed the show as a watered-down copy of his earlier hit. Ratings were weak, and within weeks the show was canceled. For Jesse, who once dominated reality TV, it was a sobering reminder that the world had moved on. By 2013, Jesse walked away from Austin Speed Shop entirely. The partnership ended, and with it his hopes of redemption in the custom car world. He returned to West Coast Choppers, but this time on a far smaller scale, focusing on low-profile commission builds rather than the empire he once ran. Austin was supposed to be the beginning of a comeback. Instead, it became a chapter of false starts and bitter disappointment. But Jesse wasn't done yet. In fact, his next move would shock everyone, because it had nothing to do with motorcycles at all. In 2013, Jesse James stepped into a completely different arena: firearms. He launched Jesse James Firearms Unlimited, or JJFU, in Austin. The goal was clear: take the same craftsmanship he poured into motorcycles and apply it to custom weapons. These weren't standard guns. They were works of art. Hand-engraved pistols, stainless steel AR-15s, rifles with exotic wood finishes. Each piece bore Jesse's stamp of creativity. One of the most talked about creations was the Trump 45, a gold-plated 1911 pistol engraved specifically for Donald Trump. Controversial? Absolutely. But that was the point. Just as West Coast choppers pushed boundaries in bike culture, JJFU made headlines in the firearms world. Collectors willing to pay thousands flocked to his creations. But the shift into guns wasn't without backlash. Some dismissed him as a washed-up TV star chasing controversy. Others questioned if the firearms industry would take him seriously. Still, Jesse pushed forward, slowly building a loyal client base. At the same time, he didn't completely abandon motorcycles. Each year, he built a handful of bespoke bikes for private clients. Sharp steel frames, hand-stitched leather seats, intricate detailing, smaller scale, but pure Jesse James craftsmanship. He also experimented with Outlaw TV, an online channel covering bikes, guns, and outlaw culture. It never reached mainstream success, but it kept him connected to fans on his own terms. This pivot into firearms was more than business. It was survival. Jesse knew he couldn't erase the past, but he could carve a future that wasn't dependent on TV ratings or Hollywood approval. He had reinvented himself before, and now he was trying to do it again. But the question remained: could reinvention ever be enough to escape the shadow of scandal? Looking back, Jesse James's story reads like a roller coaster, a dizzying mix of triumphs, controversies, and reinventions. From his mom's garage in Long Beach to building a global brand, from monster garage to scandal-ridden headlines, his life has never been predictable. At every high point, there seemed to be an equally dramatic fall. What makes Jesse's story so compelling isn't just the fame or the downfall, it's his refusal to disappear. While many in his position might have faded quietly, Jesse kept building. Whether it was motorcycles, hot rods, or firearms, he always returned to craftsmanship. To him, the act of creating mattered more than public approval. But scandals don't just vanish. To this day, Jesse's reputation remains divided. Some see him as a master builder who pushed boundaries and inspired a generation of mechanics. Others view him as a cautionary tale, proof that reckless decisions can erase years of hard work. In truth, he is both, a man of immense talent and deep flaws. What's undeniable is the resilience. Jesse James is still here, still creating, still moving forward. He may never reclaim the empire he once had, but his legacy is etched in steel, in engines, and now in firearms. Love him or hate him, Jesse James represents a truth many refuse to face. The outlaw spirit can be both inspiring and destructive. So what do you think? Can someone truly reinvent themselves after such public scandals? Or will the shadow of the past always follow, no matter how much they build? Share your thoughts below. Hit like and subscribe for more stories of rise, fall, and reinvention.